Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of Adam Partridge Auctioneers based in the UK, and we're going to have a look at their latest musical instrument auction, which is combined with arts and furniture. But obviously we're just going to have a look at this first bit, the musical instruments. There's about 209 lots, and all of these lots are finishing on the first day of this 3-day auction. So that's the 11th of May that this will be finishing. It is the 9th today at the time I'm recording this, the day that I'm recording this video, so you've got a couple of days left. As I said, this is a UK based auction, so if you're looking to bid outside of the UK, Europe, international, etc., then check the terms and conditions for import, export and other shipping things, and even if you're in the UK, kind of shipping arrangements, etc. The buyer's premium on this auction is 20%, which is fairly standard and not too bad. Just a note to say that I'm recording in a different room today, so there might be some ambient noise, cars and things that you hear, so apologies for that, but it can't be helped, unfortunately. So without further ado, I think let's just kind of let's get on with it and see what we have. I think there's a few interesting things in this auction, so I think this could be quite a good one. Adam Partridge sometimes does come up with some curious stuff. So we have here a quarter-sized German violin with one piece back with a Matthias Neuner label there in an ebonized case. I think we don't need to go too deep into this one, but it looks fairly standard trade, but the estimate is reasonable. Half-size violin with tooth-piece back with a bow, 50 to 80 there. We can also blow these up a bit bigger, so that's not too bad. Actually, good amount of pictures so far. Once again, fairly standard looking violin. It says 5 German half-size violins for restoration. Estimates at 80 to 120 pounds. Some curious looking models of violins there for half-size. Some of it kind of fairly interesting. We've got one absentee bid already of £50, but curious enough. German 3/4 violin, Guarneri copy. 30 to 50 is the estimate. This looks in kind of fairly good condition, but I don't think it's anything too outrageous. A rare kit. It's a narrow violin or Pushet, probably 18th century, figural carved scroll. A similar example can be seen in the Victorian Albert Museum. Attributed to Jacques de Mesnil, yeah, interesting. Absentee bid of 120, estimate 2 to 300. People do like these kind of things, and to know, it seems that Adam Partridge get hold of this kind of interesting stuff for some reason. They always have a few kind of oddities. It's definitely a bit of a curious one. I love the way that the bow slides into the back here. That's amazing, and it's great that they've captured those pictures as well. So this is an interesting lot, definitely. Okay, 3 various Pushet violins, so that's quite cool. Yeah, that's really interesting, that one, isn't it? That's very cool. Yep, absentee bid. You can tell that all of these ones, these interesting ones, are going to have bids. 3 old Pushet violins, traditional form with long necks. I think they've got better at describing things, because sometimes the descriptions are a little bit off. Yeah, interesting looking things there. 320 already absentee bid, so people really want that. R.M. Abraham, English Pushet violin. Yeah, once again, we're getting the absentee bids already. I think it's really people that collect these Pushets. J. Brown and Son Grimby, an English viol with 2-piece back. That's quite interesting. Neck slightly detached from body. There you go, 2 bids already on that absentee. Curious, interesting scroll. Actually, the the violin in the avatar for this channel, the kind of weird bird head violin, that actually came from Adam Partridge. So they do have some curious stuff every now and then. Christopher Rowe, a full-size English violin, Isle of Wight, 2007. There's a Rowe certificate as well. That's a model of Guarneri del Gesù, the Plowden. 5 to 6,000, starting at 3,000. Seems a bit optimistic, unfortunately, just because sometimes some of the English makers, it's a bit more difficult to get the prices at auction. But yeah, looks like a fairly good instrument there. Here we got violin, labelled JB Colin Mazar here. Some bows as well, estimates 3 to 5, starting bid 1,800. I mean, yeah, I guess these are quite popular, but it's quite a high starting bid. Looks like a fairly nice violin, a good pictures. Yes, but I don't know. I just feel that this is potentially a bit of a high starting bid. An unusual Scottish violin, a small size, a rounded form. Alan Leon Crookholm, 1903, and a 3/4 size violin for restoration. Already some bids on that. That's a curious looking one, isn't it? Yep. Unusually shaped violin, possibly a prototype, unlabelled, and a modern silent violin. Bid on that as well. It's quite, let's say, primitive, as some might say, but interesting enough. Probably German, full-size violin of unusual form, appears in overall good condition. £65, a bid on that. Let's just see what's going on here. Yeah, it's an interesting one, an acquired taste of that form, but there are some historical makers that made violins with those shapes, and some of them are quite nice. There's also some modern Chinese copies of similar kind of stuff floating about. We've got 2 full-size German violins for restoration. Extensive wear and damage, so, and some detached from the body. £50 bid on that already. They look fairly standard. Interesting case though, it's quite a nice case. Full-size German violin for restoration there. Now we're getting a lot of bidders, early bidders in on this. Interesting scroll. Yeah, slightly interesting. Okay, Alfredo G. Gallia, a full-size violin, label inscribed Alfredo G. Gallia, for Sit Durban 1958, lacking pegs and fingerboard. It's had a bit of a hard life. Quite interesting, luminous varnish. Quite like it. Sometimes you get some of these. I've seen a few Hill violins that are quite almost luminous in varnish. It kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, it's an interesting violin, that one. No one's tried to bid on it yet. Full-size German violin, 2-piece back, kind of damaged condition. A few bids on that so far. Yeah, it's fairly interesting there. 3 absentee bids already, £100. I suspect something like that will sell for at least 500, if not a bit more. A large full-size German violin, 2-piece back there. Already bids on that as well. That one not so exciting. Full-size German violin, 1-piece back. The Ferdinandus Galliano label, but it's definitely not one of those. Yeah. Anyone bidding on that one so far? No. Full-size German violin. Best labelled Jakob Steiner in a W.E. Hilton Sons ebonized case. It's actually fairly interesting violin, that. Extensive damage. So 130 already on that, so it's popular. Full-size German violin. Yeah, that's kind of slightly odd, but interesting. Shame we can't zoom in a bit more. Actually, it'd be nice to see a bit more closely, but it's slightly interesting. That one. Full-size German violin again. Yeah, not too bad. I think someone must have had a collection of interesting violins. Very unusual violin, a fan-shaped design, probably German manufacturer, no label. Skull has been broken and repaired. This is definitely quite odd. Not seen one like this before. Really bizarre. Definitely not really a fan, I must be honest. Well, fan shaped, but not a particular fan of this type of thing. But I not seen one of these before either. So as you can see, absentee bids already on £230. So I think that this will go pretty high. Small German violin, a Marty copy. It's got extensive damage. Nice looking back, actually. That'll probably do quite well, I would think. Full-size German violin, two-piece back. Cool scroll on that. Yeah, interesting looking thing. Full-size violin there with the label for Jean-Baptiste Collin. Not too bad there. Full-size German violin. Got one absentee bid on that. Joseph Metelka, Czechoslovakian violin, as they are stating. Interesting. With the Star of David, so slightly curious. Richard Rubis, full-size Russian violin, labelled Richard Rubis, Petersburg. Now, I think the general consensus is that most of these are made in Germany, although there is some argument that some of them, potentially original ones, were actually made in Russia, but I've not really delved into it too much. But some people say that these violins sound pretty good, but I've not heard one. I think I've seen one in person, but I've not actually heard one. Unusual violin of rounded form. You see these occasionally. This one looks fairly standard. Absentee bids on it. Full-size German violin here. A couple of absentee bids already. Yeah, it's interesting enough. Small German violin. Yeah, it's definitely curious, that one. Some interesting violins for sure. German violin, unlabeled but inscribed 1700 to interior. 60 bid. So it's got some interesting designs on the front and the back. Not so interesting in my opinion, but full-size German violin. They do like to say that everything is German, and I'm not 100% sure that that is correct, but they do like to say that. Full-size German violin, one piece back. It's kind of set up for Baroque, but it doesn't look like the kind of finest of instruments, but I'm sure someone will buy it for Baroque playing. This is a curious one. Unusual white metal full-size violin with engraved brass tailpiece. This kind of stuff tends to go quite well. People really like these kind of quirky things, collectors. Full-size German violin. Fairly standard there. Unusual small full-size violin, rounded form, carved monkey for the head. Definitely needs a lot of work on that. It's already had some horrible repairs, so bit dubious, that one. Full-size German violin, label saying Paolo Magini. This is a fairly typical trade violin, that kind of inlay on the back. Unusual brass violin body with accessories. That is really quite curious, isn't it? That will definitely probably go for something for the oddity value. Full-size German violin. That's an interesting kind of scroll on that one. It's quite curious. 170 already bid. Yeah, people are going crazy at the moment, I think, on bidding. Full-size German violin in a W. Hill and Sons case. Quite a cool looking scroll on that one. Quite like it. Full-size violin, one piece back. Label Oliveri Felici Fu Vincenzo. Okay. And full-size German violin, inscribed Brugger. Interesting design on the back. Full-size German violin, table completely detached, and definitely in need of some restoration. There's an interesting label there. Nice case. Full-size violin with a Joseph Rocker label. Some people interested in that. Another interesting violin. An old English violin, two-piece back, indistinct label, Leeds 1864. See. Yeah, interesting scroll there. Repaired by Leeds 1864. It's hard to read exactly what that says. That's an interesting violin that looks a bit like a kind of Urquhart or something like that. Just the way that the scroll is. So that's yeah, that's a very interesting violin. Full size violin for restoration, branded below the button, Patchen, London. Yeah, interesting looking violin. This is a really interesting auction. 4 assorted German full-size violins for restoration. Let's have a look at this. Yep. Some interesting stuff. Someone had an interesting collection for sure. And they always seem to find them, Adam Partridge. I don't know how. Always seem to find these interesting collections. Full-size German violin, label Anton Schendel, Mittevald. Full-size French JTL violin there. Looks fairly standard kind of thing. Full-size composite violin, possibly Flemish, probably later table, unlabeled, 2,000 to 3,000. They're looking for that. Looks interesting, but fairly high starting price. Full-size German violin with a Peter Guarnerius label. Looks like a fairly standard trade instrument, that one. Full-size German violin, a Caspar de Salo and Brescia label, and branded Dresden. So a fairly standard instrument. Full-size violin, labelled William Forster in St Martin's Lane, London. And once again, looks fairly standard kind of instrument, trade instrument. Full-size German violin. Another few tradey instruments. Full-size German Mittevald violin, accompanied by a copy of William E. Hills and Son certificate from 1916, certifying that the violin was made by German maker of the Klotz School. Interesting. Let's have a look at that. Let's see. It's got a Hill and Sons bridge. Looks a bit funny in some of the pictures, but then the shot of the back and you see the corner work, you can kind of see that the work is actually quite nice. So interesting looking violin. Attributed to J.T. Priestley, full-size violin. So the grandfather of the vendor was John Thomas Priestley, and this lot is accompanied by a copy of Dictionary of British Violin Bow Makers, in which the maker is mentioned on page 130. Interesting. Varnish has had a hard life, I think, and a kind of Guarneri type F holes there, but nevertheless interesting. And speaking of interesting, it's an interesting full-size violin or small viola, probably German, inscribed 1923 on the button. Bow is kind of, that's fairly interesting. A Jean-Baptiste Collin, small full-size French violin. Looks alright, terrible bow, but full-size German violin. Carved scroll. Ooh, yeah, lost the images there. Interesting kind of lion head, a little bit crude, but interesting nevertheless. Full-size Austrian violin, apparently. Unbranded. 50 to 80. This looks fairly kind of standard to me. Anita Matter, a good modern Swedish full-size violin. Provenance, formerly the property of renowned violinist Professor Jennifer Nuttall Wolff. £500 to £800 is the estimate there. Instrument looks in very good condition. Interesting bow as well. A case violin and bow, and a Lacquered flute. Collection of violins in various states of disrepair, disassembly, including bodies, frames, tables, backs, and scrolls. Some violins bearing labels. 2 boxes. Wow, that's a dream for some people there. Sure, there's a couple of interesting violins in there. No bids so far, but I'm sure that will change. 19th century French child's violin bow with an ivory end screw and 2 other bows. Five new 3/4 violin bows. They've not bothered with an image for that. 3 nickel mounted violin bows. Stamps of Otto Joss Clear, H.R. Frechner, Monopole and Dodd. They're definitely enjoying the photos in this auction. So they're having a field day with photos. A violin bow with yellow metal mount and end screw, probably rose gold, apparently unmarked. Okay. 80 to 120, I was going to say 320 bid already, so that's popular. French silver mounted violin bow, indistinctly stamped. That's already popular as well. 500 bids already. Nickel mounted violin bow, stamped Lupo. A few bids on that, but I don't think that's really super exciting. Silver mounted violin bow, stamped Dodd. A few bids on this. Paysold silver mounted violin bow. And Otto Derschmidt nickel mounted violin bow. Corsby, an interesting violin bow with ivory frog, stamped J. Jacques Vils and Corsby to the underside of the frog, also stamped Corsby to the shaft, with 7 other bone ivory mounted, mainly Baroque style violin bows. That's quite interesting. That's quite a curious lot. Definitely worth monitoring that one. That's a curious one. Nickel mounted violin bow, indistinctly stamped. Group of 14 assorted bows. We can just go through that. Wow, what? 800? Let's look at that again. Someone must have seen something there. For sure. Maybe it's this. There's a couple of, I see, like silver mounted bows in here, which could be French or so. Someone's definitely spotted something in that. You can tell already. Because it's gone up to 820, so there you go, that's curious. Whole load of other bids on that, so people be zooming in on the pictures and see what they can find. So that's a whole load of bows there. Walnut double bow box and 4 other bow boxes, interesting. A bundle of 19 assorted violin bows. Obviously no one's seen anything in this one that they like. Mahogany rectangular violin case with fitted interior. Look at that. William Hills and Sons oak violin case. We see these quite a lot. Late 19th century mother of pearl inlaid violin case for restoration. Interesting. Mahogany violin case and a walnut violin case. We see these all the time as well. W.E. Hills and Sons, a good oak case. H.C. Sylvestre, Luthier, Paris, mahogany case. Hills and Sons oak violin case. Hart and Son, late Victorian Edward, in inlaid walnut rectangular violin case with brass fittings. And that is actually quite nice. It's a bit nicer than your average. That's a very nice case. That will probably sell quite well, I would think. Another Hill and Son case. Edward Withers oak violin case. Vintage leather double case. 20th century oak violin case. Hills and Sons violin case, violin string tensioning device by Louis Ertel, Hanover. Interesting, not seen one of those before. Hill and Son case there. Oh, a Victorian ebonised and gilt decorated violin case. That's quite cool. Yeah, it's quite a nice looking case. Oak violin case and a walnut violin case. 4 books of violin making. Cremonese violin makers, British violin, Stradivari and the Viola brothers, all good books there. Thone, Jost and Frohman Stradivari volumes there. Mostra di Antonio Stradivari, signed limited edition book there. No picture. The Stradivari volumes again. Interesting collection of ephemera, mainly relating to violinists. Eugene ESA, etc., etc. Books on instruments that they've got no picture of. 21 consecutive years of the Strad magazine, 1961 to 1981. Interesting. Whole load of Luthier's bits. That stuff always goes popular. And frogs as well. Box of frogs. Always goes. Full-size German viola for restoration. Yep, looks kind of potentially interesting. Full-size German viola of unusual form with one piece back with a Nicholas Armatus label. Curious, looks a bit like a Evola kind of instrument, but a bit newer, at least on the back. Curious F-holes. JWO in a full-size English viola of Leeds, starting bids of 600. looks in pretty good condition. Viola with two-piece back, label for Luigi Gregori, Bologna, 1795. No bids on that so far. Really nice looking back on that. It's very interesting. Yeah, curious instrument. Very nice. Full-size Venetian school viola with two-piece back there. 5,000 to 8,000 is the estimate on that. That's interesting. No bids so far. J. Brown and Son, full-size English viola there. Grimsby. That is a really cool scroll on that. I really like how big the eye is. Really curious. Yep, very cool. Modern viola, viola d'amore, unlabelled. Major crack to table, otherwise good. Okay. Unnamed full-size viola. Looks fairly kind of modern. DJ Tatum, modern English full-size viola. Cardiff, 1994. $1,200 to $1,500 is the estimate. Full-size German viola there, cased with a bow. Six assorted nickel-mounted viola and cello bows. German nickel-mounted viola bow. Nickel-mounted viola bow and a silver-mounted bow stamped Withers. Sadly missing its head there. Silver-mounted viola bow. 240 bid already. A viola case there. A miniature cello and miniature violin and some kind of other kind of folky thing. Interesting. Wolf Brothers full-size German cello there. And 2,000 to 3,000 is the estimate. No bids so far. Harry Key, a modern English full-size cello. Newcastle, 1995. 2,000 to 3,000 is the estimate there. Full-size German cello, two-piece back, padded soft case. $800 to $1,200 estimate there. Two carved cello scrolls necks. Interesting. An eagle and maybe some kind of, I'm not even quite sure what that is, but nevertheless interesting. Nickel mounted double bass bow and cello bow. Interesting. A modern 5-string double bass by John Goodborn, 1977. 2 German nickel-mounted double bass bows, 3 nickel-mounted cello bows, and a violin bow. Tea House and London phono fiddle with horn. Some people do collect those. Luigi Emberger Italian bowl-back mandolin there. Looks in quite nice condition actually. Yeah, very good condition. I was going to say it's unusual for a mandolin. Wayman Keystone rosewood bowl-back mandolin with its nice leather case there. Nothing too outrageous there. Italian bowl-back alto mandolin, another balalaika, body of another instrument. Fairly curious. Savannah banjolele. Another Savannah, a 5-string banjo there. Oh, we've lost the pictures there. Unnamed parlor guitar and 2 further acoustics for restoration. Look fairly standard. Lion and Healy Chicago American Conservatory parlor guitar. Interesting kind of pear shaped. Looks like a kind of tenor guitar, I think. Unusual cigar box type guitar. It's curious little design. Quite like that actually. It's an interesting one. Fender Japanese Telecaster with a Bigsby. Fender Japanese Stratocaster. Had the tuners switched to Spurzal locking tuners, which I have to say have always been my favourite locking tuners. Good old Spurzals. Pretty sure they're Spurzals, aren't they? Yeah, I think so. So they're pretty good. Very nice looking. Epiphone Emperor hollow body electric guitar. Yamaha Model R GX 620DZ electric guitar. Fender Custom Shop Heavy Relic David Gilmour guitar. 5,000 to 7,000. Wow, that's a lot. But if you're a Dave Gilmour fan, I guess that's something that you would aspire to acquire. Rickenbacker Model 360 12-string hollow body. Gibson ES-DT 335 hollow body. Line 6 Variax 300. These are getting quite old now, aren't they? Fender Telecaster, spares and repairs with a Fender neck. Turquoise finish. Quite like that finish actually, it's quite interesting. Fender made in Mexico Stratocaster there. Epiphone Model Dot Super CH electric hollow body. Rickenbacker Model 360 hollow body guitar. Line 6 Variax electric acoustic guitar. I think they need to clean their photography studio a bit there. Fender Aerodyne Telecaster in a black finish. Fender teleacoustic electroacoustic guitar, crafted in China. PRS Ted McCarty Test Run 01 guitar with book. This instrument is illustrated on page 77 of the accompanying book, the PRS Guitar Book by Dave Burlock. 5-7. Interesting. That's quite rare then. Yeah, McCarty Test Run. Never a fan of PRS personally, but interesting enough. Mahogany bound Telecaster, body made by Roger Griffiths with a Schecter neck and Schecter hardware. So, yeah. Interesting. 2 to 3,000. Fender spares and repair Stratocaster in the style of David Gilmour custom shop. 150 to 200 there. Ozark resonator guitar there. Fender Japanese Telecaster with a black finish. Wesley 5-string bass guitar in silver. Line 6 Variax 500 electric guitar. Orange Thunderbird 200 guitar amplifier head and orange cab. $200 to $300. Orange Tiny Terror 15-watt combo, no guarantee of working order. Soldano Lucky 13 100-watt amp head there. Good stuff. Line 6 Spider 2 guitar amplifier, 150-watt solid amp head by Line 6. Do not guarantee working order, and even if it works, it probably doesn't really work how you'd want it to work, because I have to say Line 6 Spider, these original ones, absolutely horrible. One of the worst amps I've ever played through in my life. James Richmond Lloyd, Manchester 1883, mahogany case set of silver plated miniature models of brass musical instruments. Interesting. That's quite sweet. Very nice. 5 to 700 is the estimate. Debain Paris, a mahogany cased harmonia with gilt brass fittings and handles. Interesting. That's quite cool. 19th century boxwood improved patent flageolet flute and flageolet by Lafleur. Quite nice looking. Popular, 210 already. Mazzani and Co. London, early 19th century boxwood and ivory mounted painting keys 3-section flute with white metal keys. Bids on this one as well. It's a nice looking instrument. 3 19th century ivory mounted wooden flutes, including one marked for Goulding and Co., another Clement and Co. Yep. 19th century wooden flute as found with various other flutes in an ivory example by Ledgerette. Yeah, I was going to say there's something in here for sure that's kind of caught someone's attention. 270 bid already. Rittershausen, Berlin, Eberly Piccolo and simulated Rosewood simple system clarinet. Robert Wolfe and Co. London, an early 19th century boxwood and ivory mounted 6-key clarinet. Quite a few pictures of this. I do like these boxwood woodwind instruments, early ones. They really look quite beautiful. R. Malern, Paris, a French Bakelite clarinet cased. Buffet, a cased French clarinet with chrome fittings. Christopher Gerrock, London, early 19th century boxwood and ivory 6-key clarinet. Nice. Oscar Adler, a contrabassoon. That's interesting. 520 already, I was going to say. That's kind of a popular one. Hawks & Son, London, a silver-plated brass cornet with mouthpiece. Seen better days, some could say. Herald, a silver-plated cornet with a mouthpiece. Jerome Thibouville Lamy, brass cornet. King, a Liberty model brass plated trumpet, cased. Anton Schopf Munchen, brass bass trumpet. Brass natural trumpet there. Look at that. Early 20th century French chrome-plated mellow sax. Stamped patent applied for. That's interesting. Rare 1950s Grafton cream moulded plastic alto saxophone with case. A few bids on that already, so that's an interesting one. Yeah, very curious that. Very 50s. Selma lacquered brass alto saxophone there. Possibly German tenor saxophone, or gold with an engraved eagle over a swastika. That's rather unfortunate, but I'm sure someone is interested in that kind of stuff. Yanagisawa, baritone saxophone. F. van Cowlet, Brussels, a trombone with primitive valve system. And Besson & Co. prototype silver-plated tenor trombone. Boozy Hawks, limited artist, silver-plated tenor trombone. Savannah, brass tenor trombone. Vintage H.M. King White Liberty trombone. A Yamaha modern cased trombone. Besson & Co. prototype class A silver-plated trombone. Bougie & Hawks Limited Imperial silver-plated bass trombone. Bougie & Co. silver-plated tenor tone Solbron class A tenor horn. Collection of 15 trombone and euphonium mouthpieces by Vincent Bach, Besson, Con, Dennis Wick, Yamaha and other makers. A zither and further primitive example. Clayson and Garrett, a Dulcan 2 manual harpsichord in ebonized case. Looks very nice. Squire and Longson, a mahogany overstrung upright piano. Steinway, a Model O living room grand piano, circa 1990, 8 to 12,000 there is the estimate, so this is a fairly serious auction actually. And Scheidmeier, circular 1905 ebonized grand piano there. See it in the showroom there. £300 to £500 estimates, a bit less than the Steinway. Fantini 37 key piano accordion there. Zildjian & Co. Istanbul, a pair of brass hi-hat cymbals. A Bush Bakelite radio. HMV black case portable gramophone. 19th century rosewood and ebonized musical box. Metal portrait plaque of a composer. Interesting. Yasser Heifetz black and white signed photograph in glazed frame. No bids on that so far. large cast iron circular charger with coppered decoration in relief depicting a group of musicians in a tavern scene. I think that we are probably at the end there of anything that's kind of musical instrument related now. Yeah, so that was it really. That was the musical instrument part of the Adam Partridge auction, and I have to say I was actually quite impressed just by the kind of the diversity of what was in the auction, and just kind of some of the stuff very, very interesting indeed, very curious. So I think it's definitely worth checking out this auction, especially if you're in the UK and you're interested in instruments. I definitely recommend having a look at it in a bit more detail. Like, there's a few things I've seen on here that I think, oh, I definitely need to revisit this auction listing again before it finishes in a couple of days' time, and really take a look at some of the pictures in a bit more detail. So very interesting indeed. So yeah, on that note, thanks a lot for watching the video. Check out the auction, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.